It's long been argued that no one could see the colour blue until modern times. Evidence for this includes the fact that in the Odyssey, Homer describes a wine-dark sea, and the word blue is not actually in the book. Apparently it was the last colour to appear in many languages, such as Greek, Chinese, Japanese, and Hebrew. Lazarus Geiger is a language historian, and he studied various ancient texts and discovered that cultures first had words for black, white, dark, and light. After this came red, yellow, and green, and finally blue. The Egyptians were one of the first cultures to have a word for blue and produce blue dye. The question they pose is, do you really see something if you don't have a word for it? Or in other words, can we understand something without language? Jules Davidoff conducted an experiment with the Himba tribe of Namibia, who don't have a word for blue. They were shown a diagram of various greens and one blue and were asked which square was different. Some could not decide, and others took a long time to find the answer. However, when shown a diagram of greens, they could decide more easily which one was a different green. Apparently, they have many words to describe the colour green. Davidoff concluded that without a word for a colour, it is much harder to notice. The argument whether words shape our thinking or are just tools for communication is not new. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis stated that language determines the way we think, known as linguistic determinism. For example, in the Hopi language, there's one word for everything that flies except for birds. Sapir and Whorf concluded that it would be very difficult for a Hopi and an English physicist to understand each other. This hypothesis became very important to many postmodernists and their view. There is no single truth. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is largely discredited today. It is of concern to Intentists because if language really does shape our thinking, then language is the author of a work, and we can no longer say that meaning comes from the outworking of the writer's intention. There are numerous problems. For example, if without a word for blue, we cannot see blue, how are we able to realize we couldn't see it and create or borrow a word so we could see it? In fact, how would any new words come into existence? The fact many things are on a spectrum, whether they are colours, shapes, ages or sizes, a more accurate vocabulary helps us to put boundaries along the spectrum and categorize them. Want to find out more about intention and meaning? Check out our website at www.intentism.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you there.